Hello guys, welcome to the EJ Tech Show, and today we've got for you the hands-on review, I should say, of the Realme Narzo 30 Pro 5G. Yes, that is quite a mouthful, but this phone also offers a lot of features at a very attractive price point. So today we're going to take a look at everything this gets, whatever upgrades it gets over the Narzo 20 Pro, and what else it gets in comparison to Realme's own X7 series. So today, this is what we're going to be deep diving into. Let's get started. Now let's get started with the basics, which is the design. Now this looks like a bit of an upgrade over the 20 Pro in my opinion, because it is a very nice, simple matte shine sort of finish at the back. This is the blade silver variant, and you also get it in a different color, which I'll put on screen right now. But this, I think, looks really nice and premium. It's really simple, and I like the fact that Realme has gone with this sort of design rather than doing what they did with the X7 series, which was that huge dare to leap branding. It did look nice, it was eye-catching, but I think it was a bit overstyled in my opinion. This is a far better, far simpler, and far easier design to love in my opinion. On the back, you'll see there's a triple rear camera setup. That is a 48 megapixel primary sensor. That's something I'll get into later. On the bottom, you'll see there is a headphone jack, there's a USB Type-C port, there's a microphone, and there's the bottom firing speaker. There's no stereo speakers here, so be aware of that definitely. On the left side, you'll see the two volume buttons, and you'll also see the SIM card tray, which I'll show you in a minute. And on the top, there's another microphone. And on this side, there is the power button, which doubles up as the side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which is actually really accurate and really fast. Every time you use it, it's just almost instant. And I'm really liking the fact that more companies are going towards side-mounted fingerprint scanners. But I like the fact that Realme's are some of the most reliable side-mounted fingerprint scanners, even more than Samsung in my opinion and in my experience as well. So this is the fingerprint scanner, super quick, super sharp, super fast to use. So now, since we are talking about design, we have to talk about that large 6.5-inch 120Hz LCD display on the front, and the bezels are quite slim. There is a little bit of a pronounced chin at the bottom, but it's not all that bad. I don't think it's that much of a deal breaker. You will see a camera hole here. That's for the hole punch. In fact, it's kind of blocked in this wallpaper. Here you can see it right there, and it's fine. It's what we've seen previously on the Realme Narzo 20 Pro as well, and on other Realme devices, so it's not really all that out of place, I should say. On the top, you will see that earpiece grill. Unfortunately, it does not double up as a stereo speaker like I said before. I wish it did, but it doesn't. These side rails are matte finish. They are plastic, but still they feel pretty premium to the touch. In fact, a lot of this phone, especially in the hand, feels similar to the Realme X7 Pro 5G, which is very good because that's one of Realme's flagship products in the country. So it's good that even at this competitive price point, they're being able to give users a similar experience. Now, like I said, this screen is 120 Hz. It also has a 180 Hz touch sampling rate, which makes it super fast and super smooth to use. It is FHD plus, so obviously no Quad HD at this price point. I'll be very surprised if it happens. But this is an FHD plus display, and for the most part, it is quite bright. It gets fairly bright in outdoor scenarios as well, and the colors are punchy, they're vibrant. For content consumption, it's a perfectly well calibrated screen for that. Moreover, the way the 120 Hz works, it is an auto select, sort of an adaptive feature as well. If you want, you can just set it to auto select, and then based on what activity you're doing, the phone can variate the screen refresh rate. And if you put it to 60 Hz, you'll obviously get better battery life out of it. But in my opinion, if you don't have the 120 Hz enabled, then what is the point of giving it on the smartphone? It just makes everything so smooth, absolutely quick animations, no lag whatsoever. Now, speaking of no lag whatsoever, we do have the Dimensity 800U chipset powering this device, along with 8 GB of RAM, which is a quite powerful combination at this price point. Now, we've also seen that the Dimensity 800U chip has been put in the Realme X7, and both phones get 5G compatibility. This one does as well. But it is interesting to note that Realme thinks that this processor can be used at different price points without making the customer feel like they're either not getting the best chipset, because at the end of the day, it is a very powerful 7nm chipset. However, I will say this, for all the good things that it does get under the hood, I wish it did come with Android 11. We are now well into February in 2021, and to get a smartphone that's not getting Android 11 when we're seeing developer previews of Android 12 is a bit of a shame, although knowing Realme, they'll probably introduce this very soon. Now, along with that Android 10, this phone runs on Realme UI 1.0, which is actually quite smooth. It's not stock Android, of course, and there are a few apps that keep sending you notification, bloatware, etc., like from the browser. You can block them easily, so that's not too much of an issue, but you should know that there is some amount of bloatware pre-installed on this smartphone out of the box. That being said, the Realme UI does feel quite fluid and quite smooth, and there are some additions that you do have, some features that help you get better productivity results, like this sidebar out here. It's very similar to Samsung's Edge panels and what we've seen on other smartphones, but again, it is a very handy addition to have. Also part of Realme UI is the Realme Lab, where Realme puts some sort of experimental beta features that you can use, and this basically makes the experience a little bit better, and you're able to give direct feedback to the company as to how these features are working, so they can introduce them as part of their next UI update. Now, like I had said before, that front camera is in a hole punch on the top of the display, and it is a 16 megapixel unit. It is quite good. It takes quite sharp selfies, and even in low lighting or indoor lighting scenarios, it does a pretty good job. It does have HDR on hand, so that helps it out quite a lot. You also get things like these beautification modes, which you can toggle if you want. I usually like keeping it at natural because that, I feel, tells the truest story about the camera, but you can keep these on in case you would like to do that. Okay, now let's talk about the rear cameras. This is a triple camera setup, which is somewhat of a step down from what we saw on the Narzo 20 Pro, which had a quad camera system. But in my opinion, like a lot of reviewers have also said, and like how we've said previously on the show, having a larger number of camera arrays on your camera setup isn't always the best thing. What matters is how well those camera sensors are able to take pictures and videos. And on that front, I think the Narzo 30 Pro performs quite well. Now, we'll put up some camera samples for you on the screen, but I can show you a few. It actually does take a lot of good detail when you're taking pictures, even in indoor or low light shots. And that's actually what's surprising, because this has usually been the Achilles heel of Realme phones, that photography is not where they absolutely outshine their competition. Yes, there is still some green tint visible on ultra-wide shots, but for the most part, pictures taken with that 48 megapixel primary sensor and the ultra-wide sensor and even the 2 megapixel macro sensor are quite good. Although the macro sensor is not that great, I would rather you just use a 2x zoom mode, which basically allows you to punch into that primary sensor's high resolution sort of detail, and then you're able to get better shots than the macro, in my opinion at least. Now, on the video front, it is worth noting that you get up to 4K resolution. However, it is capped at 30 FPS, not 60 FPS, but that's okay at this price point. Even 4K, being able to do 30 FPS 4K is pretty good. However, video recording from the front camera is capped at 1080p, so that is important to note. Okay, now let's get into battery life, because this smartphone is powered by a 5000 mAh unit, which is actually quite considerably good at this price point. It's not the best we've seen, but it is quite good. And honestly, battery life on this is fairly good. Even with heavy usage, I got around 6 to 8 hours of screen on time, which is quite honestly surprising, because I didn't think that the Dimensity 800U would have it in it to be that power efficient, but it really is, at least in practice. And if you want to extend the battery life even further, you do have things like power saving mode or super power saving mode on hand to be able to extend that battery life even further. Another good thing about the battery life is this 30-watt Super Dart charger. Now, this is Realme's Super Dart charging compatible, so it goes up to 30 watts. Now, we have seen 50 watts on phones like the Realme X7 5G and even 65 watts on the X7 Pro 5G, and 30 watts is actually quite enough for a phone in this of this price point and with this sort of battery. I'm absolutely fine with it. From 0 to 100, it takes around 1 hour to get it to full, so that's actually pretty decent. I don't think that's absolutely a bad thing at all. 0 to 100 in 1 hour is pretty good. Okay, so now let's talk about the performance from this Dimensity 800U chipset, especially while gaming. Now, the Narzo 20 Pro had the G95 chipset, which was a gaming chipset, and in some instances this shows that the 800U may not be as focused towards gaming as the previous G95. A case where this is particularly visible is when you're playing Call of Duty Mobile, because for some reason, which I'm not sure exactly why, but this smartphone can only go till around medium graphic quality settings and high frame rate, while Realme's Narzo 20 Pro and the X7 Pro 5G, which we also have, are able to go to a higher degree and they're able to give better graphic performance. Now, that being said, performance with the settings that are available on the Narzo 30 Pro, the phone absolutely smashes through games. There's no lags, no drop frames whatsoever. In fact, this phone barely even heats up at those settings. But it would have been nice to see whether, if it had those options, whether it would be able to outperform previous Realme Narzo series phones or even the X7 series in some instances. Now, I don't know why this has been exactly done. It's possible this could be a chipset saving method, as in they don't want the chipset to heat up too much and destroy other components or itself. So it's possible Realme has toned it down a bit for that, or this could just be a bug that could be fixed with an over-the-air update. We have asked Realme why this is so, and we'll update you as soon as we know more. But as long as we are talking about gaming, I do think it is worth mentioning that 120Hz refresh rate and that 180Hz touch sampling rate, more importantly, really make it a very smooth device to game on. If you want to game on this for long sessions, it's absolutely fine. Even sustained loads didn't seem to bother it much. I do wish there had been stereo speakers, but again, we don't usually see stereo speakers at this price point, so it's not all that surprising. However, Realme did bring in stereo speakers with the X7 Pro 5G at quite a surprising price point, and I was sort of hoping they might do the same with the Narzo 30 Pro, but they haven't. That's okay, it's not a huge deal breaker, but yes, it would have been a nice addition. Another feature worth mentioning, which I think is definitely worth a mention, is the fact that this phone comes pre-installed with a screen protector right here. Now, this is a plastic screen protector, it's not a tempered glass, but still it's good to see some sort of protection being provided to the phone right out of the box. And speaking of protection right out of the box, you also do get this included silicone TPU case, which is really flexible, and it just goes a long way in protecting how good this phone looks. It is darkened out, so maybe it might yellow a little bit less, although phones, at least covers like these usually do tend to yellow pretty quickly. However, hopefully it doesn't, although it does give this phone a really nice smoky effect. Okay, so the SIM card tray on the Realme Narzo 30 Pro is a hybrid kind. You can put in 2 SIM cards or 1 SIM card and 1 micro SD card in this. We would have liked to see the option of having 2 SIM cards plus a micro SD card, but this is okay. Again, this is a very competitive price point and Realme has put some other features to make up for this. Okay, so this was our review of the Realme Narzo 30 Pro. I feel at this price point, this is a very capable device. In fact, it goes toe-to-toe with even Realme's X7 series, which is quite surprising. When it comes to other competitors like Samsung, etc., I really think Realme has packed in the sort of specs that you don't usually get to see on those smartphones, and that just might be the biggest advantage in its arsenal. Let us know what you thought about the Realme Narzo 30 Pro, whether you're considering buying it, and what you thought about this video. As always, do subscribe and like our videos on our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.